Well, hi everybody, old Gare out here at the Fishing Shack for this week's Fishing Chums fishing reports. Well, I hope you had a nice weekend the past weekend, and this week's not too bad here in the Ozark. Some areas had a little bit of rain. It's starting to get warm again. Looks like it could be a pretty good upcoming weekend. Well, we have a good report for you today. Still catching good crappie over at Truman Lake. We've had good reports over at Stockton. Some nice crappie being caught at Palm de Terre. We'll be talking about this. And some pretty good trout fishing at Taneycomo. And the bass fishing's not too bad. So what do you say? Let's go fishing.
Fish and Chums!
Well, Kathy and I have some really cool photos for you at the end of the program. Be sure to stick around. And we have some good photos throughout the program today during my report. In fact, we're going to go out at Beaver Lake. That water temperature out there this morning was 81 degrees. That's not too bad for this time of the year. And some pretty good fishing out there. You know, Ranch Carter, boy, he's out of the Huck Finn's guide service. They catch a lot of fish out there. I seen Rance had a real nice stringer of crappie the other day, a couple of days ago. But look at this nice striper. Look at this nice striper Rance picked up at Beaver the other day in about 12 feet of water, I believe. And a real nice striper Rance. Good going. Other than that, they've been catching crappie out at Beaver. They've been picking up some nice fish back in the creek areas, and a few have been caught out on the main lake as well. And some real nice size fish too. And I had a report the other day, some fish come out of a dock that had some brush in it. So there's good crappie fishing out at Beaver. And the bass fishing's been fair, a little topwater fishing in the morning, and some plastics and some of that brush has been fair. And they had a little bit of, like I say, a topwater bite going out there. Square-billed crankbaits. Look at this. Down below the dam, I understand there's some pretty good trout fishing taking place. That might be a good place to be this weekend. And occasionally down on the lower end at Beaver, they're picking up some walleye by trolling the flicker shad in about 15, 20, 25 feet of water. So check this out at Beaver. Good going, Rance. Good fish. Okay, we're going to take a look back right now. The photo of the week. This is one of my favorite all-time folks, because once in a while I like to take a photo and say, well, let's look back. And last year, my old buddy Catfish Rick Ellis and I was out, and Catfish had his dog Toby with us. And I picked up this nice fish, I think on a drop shot, and it come up just perfect, and Catfish took this photo, and Toby was looking over the boat staring right at that bass. Look at this photo of the week from Catfish Rick Ellis and our buddy Toby. Isn't that a great photo? That's one of my all-time favorite photos I've been involved with. So that's out at Table Rock. By the way, the fishing report at Table Rock, the water temperature out there this morning was 81 degrees. It's starting to drop, and the days are getting shorter. Fishing's going to get real good here, I'm telling you. Let's start off with bass. Some of the bass are moving a little bit shallower, as we know. And one of my favorite all-time baits is working good. You have an overcast day. Get out there with the Ned rig. I'm telling you, this weekend, try that Ned rig. 10, 12 feet of water. Sun gets up bright, goes out deeper. That's what I always like to do. One of my favorite jig baits out at Table Rock is the Ned rig. Boy, try that this weekend. They're still picking up some fish a little bit deeper out with the drop shots. And always have a topwater bait handy. You never know when these rascals are going to come up. And if we have a little bit of overcast this weekend, hey, go to that square-billed crankbait. And they've been pitching some jigs around the docks and picking up some nice bass out at Table Rock. Not a lot of people fishing right now. And so get out there this weekend, all those baits that I mentioned. By the way, they're picking up some crappie out there, as I mentioned, up at Cape Fair. I was out there today at Cape Fair. Water looks real good. Water temperature up there is around 78 degrees, a little cooler up there. And they've been picking up some fish in the brush piles, the pole timber, some crappie I'm talking about. Minnow seems to be the best, or jigging minnows. And to get back in the creek areas too and start looking around mid-creek area, this could be a good time of the year to catch some crappie especially up that James River arm and some of the creek arms and big coves. Catch some crappie out there. A few walleye have been caught out at Table Rock. Fished the points. We've been talking about it for the last 3 or 4 weeks here. Up the White River, up around Baxter. They've been trolling, I'll tell you what, the flicker minnows and flicker shads probably. And the fish seem to be anywhere from 15, a little shallower this week, 15, 20, 25. But there's been a few fish caught in that 15 range. And also they've been picking up some walleye up the James River also. I've talked about 3 different bass fishermen this week that's actually caught walleye bass fishing. So we know the walleye are on the move out at Table Rock. Taneycomo, 54 degrees. Water's always cooler coming out of the depths of the dam at Table Rock. And boy, fishing's been good out there. They've been running some water, so if you guys like to drift fish, you can get out there and drift fish right now. Night crawlers, I'm telling you, still the best bait. Night crawlers are still the best bait, and they've been picking up some fish on the night crawlers, drifting them. All you need is a little gold hook, a little small hook. Put a split shot up above it. You don't need no heavy one either, just something that'll bounce off that bottom. And put a night crawler on there. If it's a big night crawler, maybe cut it in half, use a half one, and bounce that thing while you're drifting. I'm telling you, you're going to catch a trout out at Taneycomo this week. If they're not running water, as I mention all the time here on the program, go to the 2 or 4 pound test with small jigs. Seems like brown's doing good right now. Cinnamon's doing good. I'm talking about 32nd or 64th ounce. Okay, at Bull Shoals, it's starting to cool off a little bit. 81 out there this morning. 81, that water temperature's dropping off. And we'll go with walleye right now. In the morning hours, and especially overcast days, there's been some nice walleye caught on the points there. Some people are using the bottom bouncers with a night crawler. Other people are trolling the flicker shads, picking up a fish occasionally. And some people are just taking a jig, just like an 1/8 ounce jig with a night crawler, pitching it out there and coming down off that point. Other people are spooning, especially if you catch an overcast day. Spoon some walleye up on spoons. Boy, that sounds good. Bass fishing, the trout are, I'm thinking about Taneycomo. The bass are starting to move up a little bit. The shad are starting to move up a little bit with these shorter days and water temperature dropping. Big balls of shad can be found on the points and secondary points as shallow as 15 to 20 feet of water right now. Ned rigs have been good this week. Drop shots have been good. Some people have been pitching up some grubs and doing a little spooning. That's on the points. And getting back into the main creek arms, some shad are starting to move back there. You might want to try some buzz baits. Hey, that might work. And also square bill crankbaits on the points and secondary points, especially if it's a little overcast and wind. And we have had some reports also of a few cats being caught out this week, mainly balls of night crawlers. Check that out off some of the points. Okay, let's go out to Stockton. My golly, there's been some nice fish caught at Stockton this week. Golly, nice crappie, a few walleye. Bass fishing's been fair. Cats have been pretty good. Stockton would be a great place to be this weekend. In fact, look at Mark Campbell. He has a whole floor full of crappie he and his group caught the other day. Look at this. Boy, that's good catching and good eating right there. And speaking of crappie, Danny Dill was out the other day. Look at these. You talk about some quality fish. Danny, good going. Nice fish. That's out at Stockton. You can catch them back in the brush, the pole timbers, and also I've had good reports of some fish being caught up the rivers right now. And jigging minnows have been pretty good, but don't overlook the jigs. I've had reports guys catching them on straight jigs right now. I'd try a 16th ounce and find the shad, find the crappie. Ooh, it's a lot of fun just using a straight jig jigging. So that's out at Stockton. Crappie fishing is good. My old buddy Jeff Deckard was out to Stockton the other day, caught another big old mess of fish. Wow, Stockton looks good for crappie this weekend. And by the way, the walleye fishing's fair. Yeah. They've been picking up some walleye out there, and what they've been doing is using a bottom bouncer and a leader with a spinner and a half a night crawler, bottom bouncing off those points anywhere from 12, 15 to 20 feet of water, experiment a little bit. Other people just like a jig and a half a night crawler, a little horse head with a half a night crawler, and pitching it up and drifting that or casting that on the points. And of course, they've been using the flicker shad. Some of the boys have been trolling these points and secondary points out there, picking up a few real nice walleye out at Stockton. By the way, the bass fishing's been good. I had good reports of smallmouth being caught this week, and also they have been picking up some nice bass out there with some plastics and a variety of baits, crankbaits, square-bill crankbaits, and some plastic worms too. Try this for bass. Few white bass have been caught, flicker shadding. And the catfishing's been good at Stockton. Seems like big balls of big balls of night crawlers or earthworms, and also cut shad. Stockton looks good for the weekend. Okay, speaking of my old buddy Jeff Deckard, he was out at Pomme de Terre the other day. Look at these fish. Hey, that's good going, Jeff. He's my crappie fishing buddy. Boy, he catches them. He loves Stockton and Pomme de Terre. He fished both lakes over the weekend and caught a lot of fish. Good fish on both days at both lakes. And they're picking up some fish at Pomme de Terre, at Stockton, on some of the brush piles. And also we've had some reports of a few fish coming around some of the docks. But I tell you what, the brush piles, finding the shad, you just look around, you'll get them. You'll catch some crappie out at Pommy. Now, by the way, that water temperature, 77 degrees out at Pommy. A few bass have been caught out there, and there's one good report of a nice muskie caught this week. And so that water, the days are getting shorter, water temperature's dropping. It's been a while, but the muskies are just starting to move a little bit. So it's going to get good out there the next few weeks, that's for sure. Okay, let's go out to Truman. Truman, boy, the crappie fishing's been good out there this week for the few people that's been fishing. Boy, they're catching them on the tree rows, the old tree rows, hardwoods, trees. Been picking them up in the cedar trees. And they've really been catching some nice fish out there in the mid-lake area, I'd recommend. And jig and minnow seems to be the best, but I'll tell you, some nice crappie out at Truman. By the way, Ronald Ballard was out the other day. Look at this. My gosh, nice walleye. Went about a little over 24 inches long. Good fish, Ronald. Good going. So they have been picking up a few walleye in that KK Island area, trolling your favorite crankbait, and also don't overlook the flicker shad or flicker minnow. That's always good. But they are occasionally picking up a nice walleye out there. Once in a while they'll get into the hybrids and white bass as well. But the crappie's the main thing out at Truman's. Catching some real nice crappie out there. Those tree rows, those old head rows, oh gosh, I love to fish Truman. And so give that a try this weekend. I know you can catch some fish. By the way, down to the lower end or mid-lake area where they're dropping that lake pretty good. They're going to get down to normal one of these days. But they've been pitching up some cut bait like cut perch or cut shad and picking up some nice cats out at Truman. I'm telling you, some bass fishing's been pretty good there as well for the few people bass fishing using big plastic worms, also square-billed crankbaits, and some jigs. Try that at Truman. Lake of the Ozarks. Michael Frank was out the other day. Look at these crappie he caught. Look at that. I'm telling you, he had a nice mess. He and his wife was out. Big old box of crappie. And that's out at Lake of the Ozarks. Water temperature out there this morning was 78 degrees. Pretty good. And the same story as the last few weeks. They're picking up these nicer crappie with crankbaits off the points, secondary points. Now, if you like to jig fish or get out there and try those brush piles, you can go jig and minnow. The crappie are still running a little bit smaller than what you're getting on the crankbaits, but they are picking up some nice fish out at Lake of the Ozarks. And the points and secondary points, and speaking of the points and secondary points, they're still picking up some nice cats out at Lake of the Ozarks on cut shad up on these points in about 15, 20, 25 feet of water. Working that. Boy, they're catching some nice blue cats out there. Bass fishing has been fair. They've been picking up some bass at Lake of the Ozarks with plastics in the brush piles on the points, secondary points. And they have been overcast days throwing some crankbaits up and picking up some fish. Slow rolling spinner baits. I've heard picking up a few fish at the Lake of the Ozarks. Okay, let's go out to Norfolk. The water temperature out there a little warmer. It's down in Arkansas over there by Mountain Home. Beautiful lake at 83 degrees. And man, they've really been catching some crappie this week out there. If you haven't been out there, you boys and gals listening down around Mountain Home in that Norfolk area, get out there this weekend because they've really caught some nice crappie in the timber and the brush and some of the points out there. And jigging minnows have been working. But I'm telling you, you can catch some crappie out at Norfolk. And also, they're still picking up some still picking up some real nice walleye out at Norfolk as well. And at, 25, 30, 32 feet of water range. And bank spoons have been working good. Also jigging night crawlers. Some boys have been trolling crankbaits once in a while, picking up some fish as well. But walleye and crappie, hey, man, you can't beat that. Norfolk sounds like a great place to be this weekend. Well, we want to thank you very much for being with us today. We have some great photos coming your way, so don't go anywhere. Hey, I tell you what, I want to thank all the viewers last week. We had well over 6,000 viewers. That's great after Labor Day. And we had a lot of you folks over on Facebook. Gosh, God bless you guys. A few of you over on YouTube. But our Facebook family is really getting huge. Boy, thank you very much. And we do want to add that be sure to like and share. We really appreciate that. If you have any buddies or anybody might enjoy the program, be sure to share it. And if you have any photos, be sure to send it to us on our email at fishingchums@gmail.com. Well, we have some good photos coming your way. God bless you. Have a good weekend. Watch the weather. But get out and get bit, and I'll be here next week. Happy outdoors, everyone.